Welcome to the Doomscroll News Report here on Radio Taiwan International, where I, Hanna Belinsky, and my co-host,
Amanda Stevens,
two writers, political by necessity, cover some of the biggest international news stories dominating our news feeds from the last week. I'm Hanna Belinsky, and this week we are celebrating 1 year of Doomscroll.
Yay!
Kind of. Almost. To commemorate the occasion, we will both look back on a couple of our favorite stories from the past year of programming, including any relevant updates since then. I also want to talk about Sam Altman, one of our technocrat overlords, who manages to make Mark Zuckerberg, whom I often describe as being a black hole for charisma, seem like the hottest, most popular, and normal person in school. Now, Sam Altman. I believe we first name-dropped him when we were discussing how the AI company Anthropic declined to move forward with a deal with the United States government that would have seen it deploy its models on the Pentagon's classified network. But Anthropic didn't want their AI being used for evil, basically, fully autonomous weapons or mass domestic surveillance of Americans.
The bare minimum.
Very normal things to not want to be involved with. So President Donald Trump blacklisted them, and hours later, Altman's company, OpenAI, swooped in on the deal. He claims that they share Anthropic's red lines, but, well, let's get into why there's reason to doubt basically anything this guy says. So Ronan Farrow and Andrew Marantz on April 6th published a major piece of journalism in The New Yorker detailing their 18-month-long investigations into Altman, for which they reviewed undisclosed internal memos and more than 200 pages of documents and interviewed over 100 people. The piece mainly looks into how Altman was, in 2023, briefly removed as OpenAI's CEO by board members for lacking integrity. Altman's chief scientist and a few other like-minded colleagues had compiled evidence to show that he had deliberately misrepresented facts to executives and to board members and deceived them about internal safety protocols. So basically, lying. A lot of lying. Pressed on this pattern of lying, he said, quote, "This is so effed up. I can't change my personality," end quote. I can't make that up. He really said that.
You can't make that up. Yeah.
But he was only fired for about 5 days before being reinstated, basically rizzing his way back into his CEO position, plus hiring like a billion corporate lawyers and all his other rich buddies to help him kind of wiggle his way back in.
Just kind of like not facing consequences.
Naturally. A lot of them don't seem to do this. So, okay, it's kind of easy to arrive at the conclusion that this man is evil, self-serving, cunning, manipulative.
How do you really feel?
I mean, hey, I'm just saying. But former board member Sue Yoon puts it this way, that Sam Altman is not some Machiavellian villain, but rather someone who is able to convince even himself of the shifting realities of his sales pitches, his lies. He is, after all, often called one of the greatest pitchmen of his generation. He's just also, according to major figures of the tech world, a sociopath, an almost magically persuasive liar. This is a really long piece of investigative journalism, but one thing that stands out to me is just how willing Altman is to simply go along with whatever is happening, as long as he is always following the flow of money and opportunity. He was originally like a Democratic voter.
Yeah.
He supported Biden, all this stuff. But as soon as kind of the tide started to turn, he was like, actually, it doesn't matter who's in charge. He's just doing whatever is good for the bottom line, pretty much. So I guess my question is the problem Sam Altman, or is the problem that the systems we have built around AI, this whole AI boom, the whole AI industry, all of this, Are the systems we've built around AI specifically designed to reward people who are like him, who are like basically sharks?
I feel like the problem is always trusting these people who say that they have a miracle cure.
Of course.
Like, I think that's the problem. I don't know that AI itself, for the first time, I don't know that AI itself is the problem.
Yeah,
But I feel like it makes perfect sense that something like AI with all of, and all of the problems that we have listed with it have come out of somebody like Sam Altman or like echo chambers like that. Because some of the major problems that I think it's very sycophantic, the fact that it hallucinates ideas, the fact that it takes like an inordinate amount of power to be able to do this.
Yeah, it
that
flatters
disproportionately
you on purpose.
affects like, and also like physically in the real world disproportionately affects poor people.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it's crazy expensive and not making enough money to support the amount of power that it needs. Literally power, not like the idea of power.
Yeah, and water
like
too.
electricity and water,
Yeah.
right? All of these things make perfect sense because, like, if you think of this as an idea,
Seems
then you're not
really good on
looking
paper.
like you're not looking at all those problems, right?
Sure.
And when I say like a miracle cure, I mean like if you really take a look at the multiple things that Sam Altman has promised in the last like few years that AI will solve, like it runs the gamut from like it will solve all of your health woes. Like this could help us cure cancer.
You won't
Like,
have
this
to
will
work
end
anymore.
war. You won't have to work anymore. But no explanation of where the money will come from to live. Because that's another thing.
What are we going to do
It's
then?
going to replace all the jobs and fix every problem that we have. AI itself can fix a lot of problems.
Sure. It
But
has its applications.
when it is being marketed as like a snake oil
Yes.
miracle cure, that's
all.
when you really need to be suspicious of it. And especially when it's being so pervasively pushed into our lives in ways that are hard to opt out of, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about like the one that we talk about often, like chatbots, but
Sure.
like how all of your devices are now suddenly getting AI functions, how all of the websites we're doing are now investing in AI, how people are always trying to get you to like buy into this new startup that's happening. I think that's the bigger issue because that is the system that supports people who are great pitchmen, but maybe not great at delivering on those promises.
Well, some people seem to think the problem is Sam Altman and AI technocrats in general, his ilk.
I don't know that I'm not. Listen, I'm not this guy. I'm not this guy, but I am also maybe a part of that.
Well, within the same week that this piece was published, I don't think this was related. I don't think the guy read this piece, but it just so happens Altman's home in San Francisco was attacked twice in 3 days. First with a Molotov cocktail, then with gunfire.
That's crazy.
The first attacker, 20-year-old Daniel Moreno Gama from Texas, allegedly threw the firebomb with the intent to kill Altman, then attempted to set fire to OpenAI's nearby headquarters. When he was arrested, he was carrying a manifesto warning of humanity's, quote, impending extinction, unquote, from AI, which also listed the names and addresses of other AI executives. The following morning, 2 more people were arrested after shots were fired near Altman's home. What does it mean, Amanda? What does it mean that we have reached a point where people are throwing Molotov cocktails at AI executives?
I also am not entirely sure that the point is AI.
Yeah, how many? It just makes me wonder how many people feel this way. Like, obviously, this person is probably mentally unstable, but he's also kind of driving at something here because I certainly feel paranoid and suspicious of the proliferation of AI.
Whenever I see attacks like this, my immediate thought is like, especially somebody who has like a manifesto. A single person. I'm like, are you actually upset about AI? Or like, are you having, I don't think like a mental break. Like that's not really where I'm going through. But like, or are you like squeezed for cash because you're in America and the economy is terrible and it feels like you don't have any other out except for to punish people who are rich?
This could totally be a defense in like America-driven psychosis, just like cost of living psychosis.
Right. But so that is like another thing is like in trying to check my biases. Like I don't know that this has anything to do with AI necessarily.
Yeah.
I think it might also just be lashing out at like
Everything.
well-known rich people.
Authority.
The Altman's name is in the papers all the time. He's in the news cycle constantly because again, he is like in many ways he is like the face of AI.
He is the face of
right?
OpenAI. Yeah,
OpenAI, but kind of the AI movement
ChatGPT.
in general. So I feel like this is something that is unfortunately comes with the territory of being a well-known person.
Yeah.
You know, and especially like a well-known person of something that is controversial.
Yes.
So like, because even though I don't like it, I don't like the idea of people's homes being targeted by violence.
Sure, we don't
never
want to
encourage that
violence.
Right. So I think there is something to the idea as well, though. If I were to look at it as like, is AI the problem? These promises that we've seen and the rollout that we've seen of AI replacing jobs, and especially like entry-level jobs or like lower-level jobs in a market that is already really difficult.
The job market
for people to break into
in the U.S. right now is, despite whatever the government is telling you, the reality on the ground is
not the same.
Not good.
It's not good. It's not easy to get hired, but it's also not easy after you get hired to make money to live.
Yeah, correct.
So it could be related to AI as well. I don't know that it's not an issue. Especially if you feel right. Especially if you feel like this is a form, like this is class warfare, and if you feel like you are being denied a job. It's the same reason why people attack immigrants, because what you're really upset about is a system.
Yes.
And you can't attack the system, so you attack what you believe to be the face of that system, or what, quote, stole your job, end quote.
Absolutely.
Whether or not that's literally true.
Before we wrap up on Altman, I want to talk a bit about Annie. Now,
maybe trigger warning.
Who is Annie? Yeah, I do need to put a trigger warning up top. We will mention child sex abuse.
So maybe skip ahead like 5 minutes, 10 minutes if you don't want this.
So Annie is Sam Altman's little sister. She's the youngest of the 4 Altman children, and she filed a federal lawsuit in January 2025 alleging that Sam sexually abused her repeatedly between 1997 and 2006, starting when she was 3 and he was 12. Now, Sam, his brothers, and his mother have all come together to deny the allegations. The first lawsuit was dismissed on the grounds that it was untimely, i.e. that too much time had passed since the events occurred. But on April 1st this year, Annie filed an amended lawsuit under Missouri's childhood sexual abuse law, which provides a longer window for survivors to bring civil claims. Sam has filed a countersuit, accusing his sister of defamation and abuse of the legal system. Now, I mean, neither of us can speak to whether this is true, whatever happened. Do you think that what happens inside a family should stay within that family, or does it matter more when it's someone as visible, as important, and as influential as Sam Altman?
The headline of Pharaoh's article was that it was, quote, Sam Altman may control our future, but can he be trusted? When things like this pop up, everybody can make the argument like nobody's perfect. That being said, I think it is really important to look at how people have conducted themselves, and especially the people that we put in power, as to like what their internal moral driver or moral compass may be. And that includes like, if you are in a position of power, will you use that to take advantage of people who cannot fight back for themselves, or to abuse people who have no recourse against you?
And the board members who removed Altman cited his lack of integrity directly.
Right.
You know,
I think that is, even if you feel like this is like old or out of date, I feel like we do need to start looking at like the integrity of the people that we are trusting with our money, with our economy, with jobs, and with technology. With like, if I'm going to trust you that your technology is going to be good for me, and not even for me, but like for my children, for my family, for my future, for like the future of everybody around me, I need to know that you have the intention to actually help people with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is, I think, where this comes into play in terms of like where it would be my business versus where this is a family matter that like you need to work out within yourselves.
Now, to celebrate the anniversary of Doomscroll, which first went on air in April 2025 on the 21st.
Crazy.
I know.
Oh my God.
We just wanted to do a little retrospective on some of our favorite stories we've covered in the year since we started broadcasting, plus a couple of obligatory updates on the situation since to keep us current.
Whoop, whoop.
So a standout story for me this past year was Nepal's youth rising up against their government back in September when they responded to a viral social media campaign of regular citizens posting about and mocking the lavish lifestyles of the Nepalese elite by banning 26 social media platforms. Yeah, they really thought that was going to fix something. Security forces escalated what had originally been peaceful protests, killing 76 people. So protesters responded by torching the parliament, Supreme Court, and central government complex. Within just a few days, the prime minister had resigned, and Nepal's first female prime minister and former chief justice, Sushila Karki, was sworn in as an interim PM until they could hold elections. Well, in March, they did hold elections, and the Rashtriya Swatantra Party won in a landslide, making leader Balendra Shah their brand new prime minister, ending decades of the same rotating cast of old, out-of-touch politicians. Now, Shah has his work cut out for him, including investigating the deaths during the protests and reforming Nepal's deeply entrenched bureaucracy. But this could mark a truly fresh start for the country. Now, looking further into Shah, he's 35 years old and he used to be a rapper. It kind of reminds me of New York City's new mayor, Mamdani. Do you think colorful histories like this are just kind of part and parcel to electing millennial politicians?
You know what it reminds me of is the political careers, honestly, of a lot of like Taiwanese politicians that I see. But I mean that in a good way. Because
Taiwan is a small place. Everyone has done kind of everything, right?
But also, like, I feel like it's what happens when you actually start electing like,
real people.
The idea behind democracy, which is like you're not electing leaders from like families that were born and combed and molded into being the perfect politician. You're electing people who have seen a problem, they want to fix it. They believe that they can speak for their constituents because they are one of them. They're like, I am the people of this neighborhood or this district, so I can represent us. And then that person gets a place in leadership. And like, because I remember like two of my favorite stories from like the last maybe 2 election cycles in Taiwan included like one of these new policymakers who was a professional cosplayer.
How about that?
She still kind of is, still kind of was. Like, I mean, I assume she's not doing it while she's in term, right? But it's like not like she has to put that aside. And then also Freddie Lin, I think is his name, who is currently, he's moved out of legislature and he's now like representative to some Nordic country. He's a rock star.
Like, that's really funny. And Nordic countries are a great place to be into metal. So.
I look at it generally positively. I think that's obvious in like the way that I was just describing it. But I am really curious to see how the Nepal story plays out. It was a bright spot because it was nice to see somewhere where like this sort of revolution is working at the same time with deep shadows, right? Because like we said, like I don't support burning down your institutions. That being said, replacing those people in power who, again, are doing nothing but serving themselves, great. We love that.
We love it.
I really hope that they can make change. This could be such a galvanizing moment. And it was such a bright spot last year to talk about it in the midst of like really a year of protests. So
another favorite story from our last year, the election of Pope Leo XIV.
Oh my God.
Back in May.
Can I say, though,
back in May.
Like, talking about the previous Pope also was like one of the highlights.
That was fun, too.
Highlights, lowlights, when I was like, man, leadership could be good.
So Pope Leo was born in Chicago, making him the first American pope.
Love that.
Recently, he's had a lot to say to the Trump administration. Within this past week, he called Trump's threats to destroy Iranian civilization, quote, truly unacceptable, unquote, prompting Vice President J.D. Vance to warn the Pope to be careful when speaking about theology, to which Leo responded he has no fear of the administration and will continue his calls for peace. Trump, for his part, has called the Pope weak on crime and terrible on foreign policy. He's also recently posted a photo of himself as Jesus Christ, to which the Pope responded that
obviously
war makers have hands full of blood.
Obviously not a fan. Why would the Pope be a fan of that?
Clearly. The funniest part to me, though, is Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives Mike Johnson throwing his hat in the ring, invoking a concept by St. Augustine called the just war doctrine to try and set up a moral justification of war. Now, this is really rich when you consider Pope Leo attended an Augustinian seminary and can be considered literally an expert on St. Augustine's teachings. Johnson had the gall to say this and in the same breath be like, oh, I don't want to engage in theological debate with the Pope. Yeah, man, you are so out of your depth. I mean, how could you? How could you? So what do you make of the Trump administration's ongoing beef with Pope Leo?
It's like literally me going to a restaurant and being like, look, I don't want to engage in discussions about the right way to sous vide an entire roast chicken. Like, obviously, I wouldn't. You are not in the league at all.
It's jaw-dropping, isn't it?
Goodness. But so the thing that is interesting to me is like when we were discussing the election of Pope Leo, this was one of the reasons why he was actually elected, or this is one of the like we never know the actual reasons they're elected.
Sure, it's very
I don't even know if we can use the word election, but anyway.
I looked this up because I was like, are they elected? They are elected.
Okay.
It's just by a certain group of people.
I just always am going to be haunted by, like, that was one of our first shows, and it got published with us calling it the Pope election because I didn't remember the name of the conclave. But this is one of the theorized reasons why he was elected is because at that time, the conclave was looking overseas at Donald Trump, and they were worried that there would maybe need to be a spiritual leader.
Some kind of counterbalance.
Or who would need to be able to be on more solid footing with not just Donald Trump. This wasn't just an appeal to America, but sort of North America in general.
Generally, yeah.
And so one of the reasons why, because previously we had also said like that was a reason why there had never been an American pope. And that was a purposeful choice because they didn't want too much power consolidated in North America. At that time, when North America was the military leader, sort of a political leader, so it didn't feel right to make it also a religious leader in one way or another.
Yeah.
So interestingly, that's why Leo was elected in part, is because like not only does he have a lot of sway with South America, but also the fact that he's an American made a lot of people in the conclave theoretically, comfortable that he would feel more confident and he would have a lot more sway with American people.
You would hope.
To criticize and confront the administration.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's true because in another interesting swing, like Catholicism is on the rise in the United States.
It is. People are turning to religion more than ever.
Honestly, I kind of don't blame them. Interesting that it's Catholicism, though, because that was another hope. Is like, well, like there's a lot of things at play here. But so the beef between the administration and the Pope, I think, was expected. Yeah, and it is interesting to see it play out this way because ideally, in the ideal world, no, the Pope is never going to be hoping for war. So I feel like that is like a huge driving factor with a lot of this beef. And especially when we're talking about this idea of like what a supposedly just war is. It's like, no, dude, he's not going to be down for that.
Get
like,
real.
Come on. So I think it was anticipated. I think it's, if I remove myself from it, I think it's interesting. And if I am personally involved in it, I'm glad to see that the religious leaders are cracking down on the attempt to use theology to justify these massively violent acts.
Well, it's been an interesting year, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a good year to have a place to talk about the news.
That's it for today's news report. A quick reminder, you can find all of our referenced articles in the show notes for today's episode. I'm Hannah Valinsky.
I'm Amanda Stevens.
Thanks for joining us on air today. Tune in tomorrow for more programs by Radio Taiwan International. And in the meantime, remember to stop scrolling and touch grass. We'll see you next week.
Bye.